So I'm very happy to have the chance to talk to you tonight. Although what we're going to be doing, I'm going to be giving an introduction to meditation, because there may be some of you who are new to meditation, who haven't done much meditation before. And so I'm going to talk about some of the basic information about meditation, and we'll do some meditation together, just short 10-minute sessions. And there'll also be a chance for you to ask questions. So if you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them. So my name is Sangye Khadro. People here call me Venerable Khadro. And I am originally from California, but I spent most of my adult life overseas in different countries, traveling around. So I started learning Buddhism in the early 70s in India, and I quickly jumped in and took refuge and became a nun within a year. So it's really gung-ho. And yeah, and I lived in India and Nepal for a number of years, and then spent time in other countries as well. But then a few years ago, I came back to America and came to visit the Abbey, because I know Venerable Children. We met in Nepal in 1976, so we've been friends for a long time. And she's been inviting me to come here for many, many years, and finally I came, and I really like this place, so I decided to settle down here. So I'm kind of a new resident. I've only been here a couple of years, but I've been in Buddhism for a long time. So meditation, are some of you have done meditation before? You can put up your hands. A little bit. Okay. How many have not done any meditation? Really new. Okay. Because the schedule for this retreat, as you've probably seen, does involve some meditation. And but you'll be guided. You're not going to just be made to sit there for an hour by yourself in silence. There'll be guidance and help along the way. But yeah, generally, being a Buddhist and following Buddhism does involve meditation, although it doesn't have to. I think a lot of people in the West have the idea that if you're a Buddhist, you have to meditate. But I've lived in Asia, and I have seen there's a lot of Buddhists in Asia who don't meditate. They do other things. I mean, they live ethically, and they are very generous and kind and do prayers. But it's led me to feel that, yeah, it isn't 100% necessary to meditate in order to be Buddhist. So for some people, meditation may not be the right thing for them. There are other things you can do if it doesn't fit you. But I love meditation, and I find it really helpful. So what we're going to do, I'll give some basic information about meditation. We'll do some meditation together, short periods, and then I'll give some more advice about how to deal with some of the problems that occur, some of the obstacles that we encounter when we try to meditate. And then we'll do another little short session of meditation, and then, yeah, just see how much time we have to do other things. So first of all, meditation. What is meditation? And meditation isn't exclusive to Buddhism. You find forms of meditation in probably all spiritual traditions. It may not always be called meditation. It may be called something else, like contemplation or even prayer. But I think all spiritual and religious traditions do have some practice where you go inside and look at your mind and work with your mind. And but I haven't studied all the different spiritual traditions, so I'm mainly familiar with Buddhist meditation. And the Tibetan word for meditation gives kind of an understanding of what it's all about. The Tibetan word is gom, And gom has the meaning of to familiarize. So the idea is that when we're meditating, what we're doing is we are making our minds familiar with certain things. We're getting ourselves habituated to or familiar with certain things. And what those things are positive states of mind, positive qualities, good thoughts, positive thoughts and feelings and emotions. So that's what we're trying to do in meditation. We're trying to get in touch with good qualities, because we all do have good qualities within us. We all have qualities like kindness and compassion. And also we have the ability to be still and calm and to understand things that are beneficial for us and others and generate those. So anyway, we have natural good qualities within us, but sometimes they aren't very well developed. They're very momentary. They arise and then they're gone. They're there and then they're gone. And so the idea of meditation is to get in touch with these good qualities that already lie within us, and then try to keep our minds in those positive states for longer and longer periods of time. In the beginning, maybe only a few seconds, but with more experience, we can keep them longer, like a few minutes, and then eventually hours. And so the idea of familiar is whatever we are most familiar with, whatever we are most habituated to, is what will arise naturally and spontaneously in our mind. We can see that in our experience. If we have the habit, for example, of picking out people's faults, like seeing faults in them, even if we don't speak it, even if we don't say it, but just in our mind, we may have these thoughts of, oh, this person is like this and this person is like that. So these kind of nasty, critical thoughts about other people. I see some of you nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. I know this one very well. And so if we let our minds do that and don't try to stop it, then it becomes a habit. And the more we do it, then the more often it happens. And it will just be arising again and again and again and again, maybe, hours every day. And that's because that's our habit. That's what we're used to doing. That's what we are familiar with doing. And so it just gets easier and easier and easier. Like with other habits, like smoking or things that may not be so healthy for us. But once we start doing them and we keep doing them, then, it gets easier and easier. But on the other hand, and we can do this, we can make a habit of positive ways of thinking. Like instead of looking at people's faults, we can then look at their good qualities, things that we admire about them. We can focus on those and spend more time thinking about those and feeling happy about those and feeling admiration of those. So in the beginning, it's maybe kind of forced. We have to force ourselves to do it. It may not come naturally. But if we do, maybe force isn't the right word, but try. We try to think that way. We try to have those kinds of thoughts, that kind of mental activity. Then the more we do it, the more that will become natural. That will become like our habit. Yeah. So that's the idea. The idea of meditation in Buddhism is to train our mind to have positive thoughts, positive feelings, positive attitudes, and try to maintain those as long as possible. The longer we can do it, the more we can do it, then the more that will just become our kind of default mode, you might say, our natural way of thinking and being. And initially, this is something we do on the cushion when we're sitting in formal meditation. But then ideally, we try to carry it outside of our meditation to our other activities or interactions with people and so on. So basically, what I'm trying to say is meditation is all about developing positive thoughts, positive states of mind, and trying to keep those going as long as possible so that our mind gets habituated to or familiar with those, and then gradually we are transformed. Our way of thinking, our way of being, our way of living gets transformed by doing that. So Buddhism says, this is one of the most beautiful things about Buddhism, one of the things that really attracted me to it. Buddhism says we all have Buddha nature, meaning we all have the potential to become like the Buddha. Buddha is someone, because Buddha wasn't always this high enlightened being. He was once an ordinary person like us, with the same kind of problems, same kind of feelings. And he had this strong wish to find a way to end suffering and problems and find peace and happiness for himself and others. So he embarked on this spiritual journey and spent many years meditating, practicing, and finally achieved what he was looking for, the state of enlightenment, or Buddhahood, we call it. And so that's a state of mind. Basically, it's a state of mind in which there's no more negative, disturbing thoughts and emotions like anger, hatred, greed, jealousy, selfishness, pride, and so on. So all these kind of negative, unpleasant states of mind have been totally eradicated. They're gone, and they will never come back again. And instead, the mind is filled with only positive thoughts and feelings like love and compassion, pure and unconditional for all beings without exception, not leaving anybody out. And wisdom that understands the true nature of things, and patience and generosity. So all the good qualities that there are fully developed and perfected, and they're present all the time. So an enlightened being, a Buddha, is someone who's always in a positive state of mind and never negative, never unhappy, never miserable, and is totally dedicated to helping others. That's the whole purpose of becoming enlightened, is to be able to help others be free of suffering and also be enlightened. So, the Buddhist teachings say every one of us, all beings, have the ability, have the potential to attain that state. That's what we call Buddha nature. So that's something lying within us like a buried treasure. Most people aren't aware of it. So we try to become aware of it, and then, work on nourishing it, developing it, so it grows more and more and more and more, and eventually our mind will become like the Buddha's mind. So we have that potential, and meditation is the best way of tapping into that potential and developing it and bringing it out so that it can manifest. So that's the real purpose of doing meditation in Buddhism. It's to bring about a transformation of ourself, transformation of our mind, to decrease. We can't just immediately get rid of all the negative thoughts and emotions, but we can gradually reduce them, make them weaker, less frequent, less strong, and then at the same time increase the positive aspects of the mind. So it's a gradual process, a gradual transformation. But that's the real purpose of meditation in Buddhism. So that's important too. Anyone who's interested in meditation, who wants to take up meditation, it's good to explore your reasons. Like, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to practice meditation? What's my goal, my purpose? That will be something that I'm sure Venerable Children will talk to you about in the coming days. But what we are advised, strongly recommended, is to have as our reason, as our motivation for practicing meditation, not just our own happiness and our own well-being, but the benefit of others, wanting to develop ourselves so we can become more and more helpful for others. So this kind of attitude is sometimes called altruism. I don't know if you're familiar with that word, but altruism means caring about others. It's kind of the opposite of self-centeredness or selfishness, where you only care about, I mean, we all do have to a certain extent, even if we don't want to be that way, but yeah, selfishness is a very common human trait, and so we all do have it, and it can be quite harmful and destructive. It can lead to really awful things when people are strongly self-centered and they only care about themselves and don't care about others. Then they can do horrible things, create a lot of suffering and problems for others and for the world. Yeah, but even in small ways, you know, like acting in a selfish way with another person can be hurtful to the other person, and it's not, we can't really feel good about ourselves. It's hard to feel really good about ourselves if we act from that point of view, from just thinking about me. I am more important than others. I'm the center of the world, center of the universe. Everything has to revolve around me. Everybody has to be nice to me. Everybody has to like me. Everybody has to do what I want them to do, and they shouldn't do what I don't want them to do. So those are some of the ways that selfishness can manifest, and it can lead to just problems with other people, but also just not very satisfying interactions with others. It's hard to feel really good about ourselves deeply if we act selfishly. So this is, you know, one of the states of mind that we try to work on, we try to become aware of and reduce. And the opposite to selfishness is altruism, which is thinking about others, wishing, you know, caring about them, respecting them, being considerate of them, wanting them to be happy, wanting to do things that will bring happiness to others, not wanting to hurt them, of course, trying to live our life in such a way that we don't cause harm or suffering to others. So altruism is something we try to cultivate, we try to develop, and we try to bring that into our practice of meditation, so that we, like every day here, when the community gets together and practices meditation, they start with a motivation to do the practice of meditation for the benefit of others, for the benefit of all living beings. In fact, that's the best motivation to have. So my teachers, the teachers in the Tibetan tradition, really emphasize the importance of motivation, what kind of motivation we have for meditation. And so, we're trained to, whenever we meditate or do any kind of spiritual activities, and even ordinary activities like, you know, cooking or washing dishes or cleaning the toilet, we try to have a positive motivation for all of these activities, thinking I'm doing this for the benefit of others. So in that way, our mind just gets more and more familiar with that way of thinking. And then that way of thinking just becomes more and more our natural way of being. And that really helps to decrease our self-centeredness. And then there are different kinds of meditation. There isn't only one kind of meditation that everybody does all the time. At least in this tradition, the Tibetan tradition. So my teachers say that there's two main types of meditation. One involves focusing your mind on a single object and training your mind to stay focused or concentrated on that one object, and bringing your mind back whenever it wanders away. So the point is to develop concentration, to increase our concentration. And that's very important, because if our mind is scattered, you know, like every second our mind is going to something else, doing something else, then It's kind of an out of control mind, not a very peaceful mind. And if we want to do something positive with our mind, then it's difficult if we can't stay focused. Even in, I mean, maybe some of you are still students, you're studying, and concentration is very important in studying. You have to be able to keep your mind focused on what you're studying or listening to a lecture. So if your mind is jumping around and running away every second, every 2 seconds, every 3 seconds, then it's very difficult to keep the information inside and learn it and be able to get by in your work. So in all activities that we do, studying and working and so on, it is important to be able to stay focused. And in spiritual practice as well, it's very, very important to be able to keep our mind focused and concentrated. And concentration is also very enjoyable, very pleasant, very blissful. A scattered mind isn't a very happy mind. I think they did some experiment. Did some research with people, and that was the conclusion they came to, that most people's minds were very scattered, very distracted, and it wasn't very pleasant. Yeah, being scattered like that, it's not a happy mind. On the other hand, when we can stay concentrated and focused as long as possible, then the state of mind is very peaceful, very calm, very pleasant, very enjoyable. So there's many benefits to concentration. We do have the ability to stay concentrated. In the beginning, it may only be 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. But gradually we can train our mind to stay concentrated on an object for longer and longer periods of time, and even get to where you can stay concentrated for hours and experience incredible peace and bliss. So that's one type of meditation, is developing concentration. And then another type is analytical meditation, which involves thinking, contemplating. And it doesn't mean just thinking about anything in any old way, but we contemplate specific topics from the Buddha's teachings. For example, the first teaching that the Buddha gave is on the Four Noble Truths. So we could take one of those 4 truths or all 4 of them and then contemplate them using teachings that we've listened to or things that we've read, and trying to understand them better and deeper, and deepen our understanding. And the real point of that kind of meditation is to bring about a transformation of our mind, to make our mind transformed as a result of our contemplation, develop more wisdom, and have less confusion and ignorance. So you'll probably have the chance during this week to experiment with both types of meditation. And in fact, what I thought to do with you now is do the first type of meditation, which is sometimes called placement or stabilizing meditation. And you can use pretty much any object you wish, but there are certain objects that are recommended by the Buddha and by the great masters of the past. One of these is the breath, breathing. And so that's kind of an easy object to use because it's already there. We're breathing all the time. So all we have to do is focus on our breathing. We don't have to conjure up some image or some thought or bring some object to look at. We just focus on our breathing that's naturally happening. So we'll do maybe 10 minutes of meditation on that. And before we start, I'll just talk about the recommended posture for meditation. So meditation is something we do with our mind. It's a mental activity. But what we do with our body affects our mind. So the posture we adopt when we're meditating will have an effect on the quality of our mind when we're meditating. So it's recommended that we sit cross-legged if you can. It's fine to sit in a chair as well. If sitting cross-legged is painful, then you don't want to just be sitting there experiencing excruciating pain. So, so it's also fine to sit in a chair. And you can just have your legs crossed in whatever way is comfortable. Some in Buddhist tradition, it's recommended that you use what's called the full lotus posture. But not many Western people are able to sit that way, unless you've been doing yoga for a long time. Your legs are very flexible, but yeah, so you can just put your legs in whatever way is comfortable, that you'll be able to sit without having to move too much. I mean, it's ideal to be able to sit still when meditating, because if your body is still, it's easier for your mind to be still. If your body is, wiggling and restless, then it's harder to have a calm state of mind. So it is good to try to find a position that you could sit in without moving as much as possible for however long you're meditating for. We're just going to be meditating for 10 minutes, so that's not too long. And then it's also important to keep the back straight. So whether you're sitting on the floor, you're sitting in a chair, it's good to keep your back straight rather than slouched, because the mind and the body are interconnected. They do affect each other. And if we have like sit in a slouched way, in a crooked way, then the mind is not in the best state. It's more messy. So sitting with the back straight helps the mind to be more clear, focused, and alert. You can notice that even when you're having a conversation with somebody or listening to a lecture. Yeah, if you can sit up straight, you'll probably find your mind is more focused, more attentive to what's going on. And then the hands, there's different ways of placing the hands. In our tradition, the Tibetan tradition, we are advised to have our hands in our lap with the left hand on the bottom and the right hand on top. The palms are facing upwards. And then the two thumbs are touching like that, making a kind of triangle above our hands. So this way of placing the hands is said to be conducive for the flow of energy in the body. And just the best way of sitting. But then don't have your arms pressed against your sides, but leave them a little away from your sides, because if our body gets too hot, then we can become sleepy and start falling asleep during meditation, which is what we don't want to do. And so having the arms away from the sides allows the air to circulate and keeps us cool. But the shoulders should be relaxed, not tight like this. Let them drop and be relaxed. And then the position of the head, it's said that don't have your head up too high nor too low, but just slightly tilted downwards. So your chin is just slightly tilted downwards. And the eyes, some people may prefer closing their eyes when they meditate, because if they have their eyes open, they may get distracted by things that they see. But we're actually advised to keep our eyes open just a little bit, enough to allow some light to come in. And that helps us to stay awake, because the danger is if you close your eyes completely, then it's easy to nod off and start falling asleep when we meditate, and we want to avoid that. So to prevent sleepiness, it's useful to have the eyes open a little, just so there's light coming in, and you have your gaze directed downwards onto the floor in front of you or whatever's in front of you. So you can try that, but initially people can find it difficult to keep their eyes in that partially opened position. It's easier to either have them wide open or closed. So if you find it difficult and distracting to keep your eyes just partially open, it is okay to let them close. But just try to be aware if you're awake or you're starting to fall asleep. And if you are starting to fall asleep, open them up a little bit. And then our mouth and our jaw should be relaxed, so you don't clench your teeth. Just leave them loose. And it's also recommended that we put the tip of our tongue on the roof of the mouth behind the upper teeth. Doing that will reduce the flow of saliva, so you won't need to swallow as much during meditation, which could be a distraction if you do get kind of concentrated in your meditation. So those are the recommended points of the posture, and if you can sit in that way, it's good. But if your body needs to sit in a different way, then that's fine as well. It is important to be comfortable when meditating. Ideally, meditation is a pleasant experience and not a painful one, not like torturing ourselves. It should be something enjoyable, because if we don't enjoy it, if we don't feel good, we won't want to do it again, right? We'll come to see meditation as something horrible, and we pretty soon, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Don't make me do that. That's horrible. So we want it to be something pleasant and enjoyable that we want to go back to and do again and again and again. Okay, so that's the ideal way of sitting. So I'll go through those points again to remind you. So have your legs crossed in whatever way is comfortable for you. Have your hands resting in your lap with the right on top of the left. Palms upward, 2 thumbs touching. Arms a little bit away from your sides, not pressed tight against your sides. Your shoulders relaxed. Your chin and head tilted downwards just a little bit, not too high or too low. Mouth and jaw relaxed, and touch the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Just let it rest there. And if you can, keep your eyes open, just a crack, so there's some light coming in. And have your gaze looking downward onto the floor in front of you. So let your body relax in this position. If there's tension anywhere in your body, your neck, or your shoulders, your back, just imagine that it melts and flows out of you and sinks down into the earth, disappears there. And now be aware of your breathing. And don't try to interfere with your breathing or control your breathing. Just allow your body to breathe in a natural way. And with your mind, with your awareness, be aware of the breath as it's coming in, as your body is breathing in the air. And then there may be a slight pause before you exhale. And then be aware as the breath is going out, as your body is sending out the air. So try to keep your mind focused, attentive to the full cycle of breathing, the full inhalation of your breathing and the full exhalation of your breathing. And do this one breath after another. Some people may want to focus on a particular place where they can feel the breath. Like you might be able to feel it around your nostrils. That's the kind of gateway where the breath is coming in and going out of the body. Other people focus on their belly, their abdomen, which is moving in and out with each breath. But you can also just pick a place where you can feel the breath most easily, most clearly. Maybe your chest. And then just try to keep your attention at that place, at that part of your body. And witness, observe, be aware of each breath, each inhalation, breathing in, pause, and then breathing out, pause, and then breathing in again. So this is all you have to do. You don't have to think about anything else. In fact, it's best not to think about anything else. Other thoughts might come up in your mind. You might remember something you did earlier today, or yesterday, or last week, but that's the past. That's just a thought of the past. You don't need to do that now. So put that aside. Put aside that kind of thought. Come back to the breathing. Or you may think about the future plans you have for later on, today, tomorrow, next week. So the future isn't here. We don't really know what's going to happen in the future. We just have thoughts about it, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So again, we don't need to think about the future now. But just be in the present, right here, right now, this moment. Aware of the breath coming in and going out. And if your mind gets distracted by something else, like a sound, that's just a sound. You don't have to pay attention to it. So let it go, put it aside, and come back to the breathing. If it's hard to stay focused on the breathing, it can help to count your breaths. So one way you can do that is just say to yourself, breathing in, breathing out, 1, breathing in, breathing out, 2, and continue counting up to 5, and then when you get to 5, go back to 1. So that gives you a bit more to do to keep your mind active and involved in your breathing, less likely to wander away. So try that. Breathing in, breathing out, 1, breathing in, breathing out, 2, and so on. So even though this practice is fairly simple, not something really complicated, but when we try to do it, we probably find it not easy. And we shouldn't feel discouraged about that or think, oh, I can't do it, it's too hard. Instead, it's good to just try to understand what's going on. Why do I find it hard? What's happening? And the most common problem or obstacle that we experience when we meditate is our mind running away, not wanting to stay there, focused on what we're trying to meditate on, whether it's the breathing or it's image of the Buddha or meditating on Four Noble Truths or whatever. The mind just keeps running away. And the reason it does that is because that's what our mind normally does. Like if we were to pay attention to our mind during the day, that isn't easy, to actually focus on what's happening in our mind. We're usually so much focused on out there. There's so much going on out there. People and, if you have devices, phone, internet, iPad, music, and so on. So there's so much out there to notice and be aware of and pay attention to. And so our mind is just constantly jumping from one thing to another. Even when we try to read a book or try to listen to music or try to watch a movie, our mind is still jumping here and there. Right? It's not really focused on what we're doing, what we're paying attention to. So that's like the normal state of our mind. That's what our mind is doing most of the time. And so sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to sit here, sit still, and focus on my breathing, it's very difficult because we just don't have experience of doing that. It's something very unusual to focus our mind, try to keep our mind focused on just one thing. So our mind just hasn't been trained. It hasn't learned how to do that. And it just keeps following its usual habit of jumping here and there and everywhere. But we shouldn't be discouraged. It isn't impossible. It's just a question of learning how to do it. But it also helps to be in the right kind of situation, the right kind of environment. You probably noticed that already, being here. This place is just very conducive for being more peaceful and quiet, as opposed to being in the middle of a city or being in a cafe or a restaurant or a movie theater or whatever. So, that's one reason why Buddhist monasteries are built in quiet places like this, where we don't have so many noise, so much noise and other things going on to distract our attention. So being in this kind of situation makes it easier. It's still difficult, but it's easier. It's easier to do that here. And then also the kind of company you are with. Yeah. If you are with people, if you're hanging out with people whose minds are just all over the place, then you'll be influenced by that. You'll find your mind more like that as well. Whereas again, if you can be with people who have some experience of a calmer state of mind and being more aware, more mindful, more working on themselves, then that helps as well. So you may have already noticed that here, but if you haven't yet, you'll probably over the next few days notice the difference being in this place with these people who are kind of trying, at least we're trying, to work on our minds and have a more peaceful, calm state of mind. So when you're with people like that, then it's easier to do that kind of thing yourself. And then the teachings, you're going to be getting teachings, information, and have the chance to discuss and share your thoughts and ideas and experiences. So that helps as well, having that kind of information coming in. So, and it takes time. it does take time to change the mind. We can't expect our mind to change just like that, even if we want to. This was one of the things I had to learn the hard way, because I was very young when I first started learning Buddhism. I was just 21. And I was so gung-ho. I loved the teachings. And I really wanted to do all these things. I wanted to tame my mind and stop being angry and stop having attachment and desire and selfishness. And I thought I could force myself to be that way, And within a couple of months, I expected I shouldn't have any more anger. I shouldn't have any more attachment. But it seemed like I was getting worse rather than better. I remember going to one of my teachers. I was almost in tears, saying, I think I'm getting worse. What the lamas say is, in fact, this Lama Yeshe, he sort of would joke with us sometimes. He says, you're not like mushrooms. Mushrooms are things that grow really quickly, like overnight, I guess, from the night to the morning, you can have a mushroom growing up. And he said, people are not like mushrooms. You can't just suddenly overnight transform yourself and be a different person. It takes time, slowly, slowly, slowly. I didn't like hearing that. I was very impatient. I wanted it to be fast. But I had to accept, you can't force yourself to change. But slowly, 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 and I can definitely see this, that, I have changed very much from the time when I first started. Thank goodness. So there's one analogy that they have in the teachings, and I like this one. If you have a dripping faucet, that's just one drip at a time falling from the faucet, and you put a big bucket under that, one drop at a time. But slowly, slowly, eventually, the bucket will fill up to the top. It takes time, but So it's kind of like that with our practice. If we just start practicing, even just a little bit every day, like Lama Yeshe used to say to us, even just doing 5 minutes of meditation a day, you're going to start to change. You're going to notice changes happening. And so it's like the drops of water going into the bucket. Slowly, slowly, day by day, month by month, year by year, we're going to see changes happening in ourselves. I have total confidence. We do have to make some effort. It's not going to happen just by itself without doing anything, without trying. We do have to try and make some effort, but it's definitely possible to change ourselves. But we do need patience and perseverance. So one of the main problems then when we try to meditate is the mind just running away, not wanting to stay focused on whatever object we're trying to meditate on. So just understand that that's normal. It's natural. It's like that's just the way our minds are. Because, up until now, up until we start meditating, we never really tried to tame our mind and learn to focus our mind. One analogy too I find helpful is learning to meditate can be compared to learning how to play a musical instrument. You can't expect that the first time you pick up a guitar or a violin or sit down in front of the piano, unless you're like Mozart or something, you can't just immediately start playing beautiful music. You have to learn. You have to learn how to make the notes, and then you have to practice again and again and again. And slowly over time, you will learn how to make beautiful music with that instrument. But you have to put some time and effort into it, and it will take time. I mean, the virtuosos, they practice like 8-10 hours a day, to get to the point they're at. And similar with meditation. I mean, the really accomplished meditators, some of them are practicing 8, 10, 12, 20 hours a day. So, learning to work with our mind is similar to learning to work with a musical instrument. It does take time to be able to play beautiful music with our mind, turn our mind into something that can have beautiful thoughts and positive thoughts, and calmness and peace and happiness and so on. So we have to adjust our expectations. We have to not have unrealistic expectations, but understand that it does take time. And so it is possible to learn to stay focused. And I mean, when we do notice our mind going away from our object of meditation, we just have to recognize that and bring it back. And then it goes away again, and we have to bring it back. And it goes away again, we have to bring it back. So even if you have to do that again and again and again, 50 times a minute or whatever, that's what you need to do. That's how to do it. It's like, another analogy is learning to play a sport. Yeah, you can't be a champion tennis player the first time you pick up a tennis racket and try to hit a tennis ball. You have to practice and train and slowly learn how to make the moves, how to hit the ball, and so on. So it does take time. Yeah, so we just need to keep bringing our mind back again and again whenever it wanders away, and do it with kindness and patience with yourself, because it's very easy to get impatient with ourselves and frustrated and, oh, what's wrong with me, and oh, I'm hopeless, I can't do this. So if you notice those kinds of thoughts coming up, don't follow them, don't believe in them. Those are just thoughts. Let them go, put them aside. And one meditation teacher gave the analogy of training a puppy. If you have a little puppy and you want to teach the puppy how to sit, you probably have to tell the puppy to sit 50 times, 100 times before the puppy will do it. But you just keep doing it, and slowly, gradually, the puppy will learn to sit. And you need kindness. I mean, if you beat the dog, if you hit the dog over the head, kick it, yell at it, that's not nice, right? That's not the way to train a puppy. You have to be kind and gentle and loving. So it's like that with ourselves. If we get angry at ourselves and frustrated with ourselves and mentally beat ourselves up because we can't keep our mind focused, is that going to work? Is that a good attitude to have? No. Yeah. So we need to be kind. So it could be helpful to use that, to think of that analogy. Think of yourself as like a puppy. Your mind is like a puppy. It's just all wild and out of control. And you're trying to train it. Come back to the object. Runs away. Come back to the object. But with kindness. Kindness to yourself. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Anything you'd like to ask about? What's your name?
My name's Phelan.
Phelan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
When you're meditating, kind of like lethargy overcomes you, what would be a good antidote for that?
Yeah, so this is another big problem that can happen. It can take various forms. One can be downright sleepiness. You're just actually falling asleep while meditating. But it could also just be, I'm not sure what you mean by lethargy, but just a kind of heaviness, dullness, rather than a bright, a light,
passiveness.
Yeah. So with either of those, whether it's all the way to sleepiness or just dullness and lethargy, some things you can do. Make sure you're sitting up straight, because again, if you're slouched, if your body is slouching, that can lead to lethargy. So sitting up straight can help, and opening the eyes, you can actually have them open wider, so there's more light coming in. But that definitely helps to counteract sleepiness and lethargy. You can also imagine light. This is one of the techniques in the Tibetan tradition. Sort of visualize your whole body, your whole being filled with light, bright light. It's like, when we're sleepy, we turn on the light, we wake up. So, so that can help. And it's also better not to meditate right after eating, especially a big meal, because, with our stomach full, then our energy is going into digesting our food, and it's very hard to meditate and stay awake. So it's better to do some exercise first before meditating after a meal. And what else? What I find is if I just don't let myself go with the heaviness and the sleepiness and keep myself awake, it'll pass. It usually passes. Yeah. Suddenly I'm like wide awake again. So those are some things you can try. And they say too, if it's really bad, you really can't keep yourself awake and alert, then you can take a break, get up, walk around a little bit, get some fresh air, splash some cold water on your face, and then come back and try again.
So if you meditate on like your whole body being bright light, does that become the object of meditation instead of the breath?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. If you decided I'm going to focus on the breath, or I'm going to do some other practice, so that's your main object or your main practice. But if you get caught up in sleepiness or lethargy, then you just do this light thing for a while until the lethargy passes, and then you go back to the other object. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard that when you meditate, your body, like when you meditate, your body produces MDMA.
What's that?
It's like a chemical that your body has.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
Haven't heard of that before.
Okay, never mind, it's fine.
Is it something in the brain? Is it the brain that produces this chemical?
I think so.
MDMA? MDMA. Anyone heard of that before? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not, I mainly study more traditional Buddhist teachings, not so much the contemporary meditation scene. So yeah, it's just something I haven't heard of. So what is the effect of that chemical?
It's supposed to it's like it's just something that I heard.
I think it helps you maybe relax. It might be part of, is it from like maybe mindfulness-based stress reduction? Is it?
MDMA is ecstasy. It's a drug.
Oh, sure. It is? Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
That's what I'm pretty sure it is.
Oh.
I see.
It's not like, okay.
We learned about it in high school.
But they normally make it in like a laboratory?
I think so.
They make
I don't
it
know
in-
more than that, but it's a drug. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it definitely can happen that when you're able to keep your mind focused, it feels really good. You feel really peaceful.
Yeah.
But we want to be able to control our mind and not have our mind just go off on trips and do all kinds of things. So we do try to keep, some structure to what's going on in our experience, and yeah.
Is there a certain balance between concentration and and analytical meditation?
Yeah. So in our tradition, we do need both types of meditation. We need, because concentration meditation enables us to learn to keep our mind focused, and we do need that. That's like a quality or a tool that we have to develop. But just concentration alone isn't enough to bring our mind all the way to enlightenment. Yeah, so we need to be enlightened. We need to cultivate positive qualities like love and compassion, and also wisdom. Wisdom is probably the most important quality, because the reason we're not enlightened right now is because we have a lot of misconceptions about things, wrong ideas, confusion, and often we're not even aware of a lot of the confusion that we have. And so wisdom is the counterforce. It's the opposite to confusion. Wisdom is seeing things as they are, seeing things correctly, clearly, how we exist, how others exist, how the world exists, and so on. And so the real purpose of analytical meditation is to develop wisdom, or a correct way of seeing things, a correct way of understanding things. So just doing concentration won't bring that. So that's why we need both. And so we can, one way of doing it is to have separate sessions. In this session, I'm working on developing concentration, and in this session, I'm working on developing wisdom. But we can also combine them in one session. So, for example, if we're doing a meditation, an analytical meditation, to try to understand, for example, the Four Noble Truths, and at some point we may get this kind of flash, like an aha experience. Now I understand. So if you get that kind of experience, they say it's good to just stay with that, focus, use concentration and stay focused on that experience as long as you can. And that way that experience becomes more familiar. Your mind gets more familiar with that. It becomes more your normal way of thinking and experiencing things. So there's ways of combining the two, concentration and analytical.
What are some wisdom meditations?
Well, in our tradition, we do a lot of analytical meditation, and I'm sure you'll learn more about that from Venerable Children. There's one kind of body of material and meditations called the Lamrim in Tibetan, which means the path to enlightenment, the stages of the path to enlightenment. And so it consists of a number of different topics, you might say, that are part of the Buddhist teachings, and we contemplate those, we meditate on those, we analyze those to bring about more correct ways of seeing. For example, one of the first of these topics is called the precious human life, where we meditate on the life that we have as a human being. We're very fortunate compared with other beings, like animals, who have a much harder life than we do and less ability to develop their Buddha nature. They have Buddha nature too, but there's not much chance that they would be able to understand it and develop it. So as human beings, because of the intelligent mind that we have, we can understand our Buddha nature and we can start to work with it. And so, just to realize how fortunate we are to have this life with all the conditions that we have, and then want to make use of it. Like, what's the best way to use this life? Because we don't have all the time in the world. We have a limited amount of time, and it's getting shorter all the time. And so the point of that meditation is to give ourselves enthusiasm and direction, and not waste our time, not waste this precious life that we have. So that's just putting it in a nutshell, but there's different ways you contemplate that general idea, and helps you to sort of shave off some of the things you might be doing in your life that aren't so useful or so beneficial, and focusing more on those things that will be beneficial for yourself, your spiritual development, and also for others. So that's one example, but there's a whole series of these contemplations. And the last one, in this in the Lamrim is the wisdom of emptiness, where we, I mean, it's not easy. It's probably one of the most difficult topics in the whole of Buddhism. But yeah, emptiness is like the true nature of everything, ourselves and everyone else and everything else. And it's something that's there already, but we don't see it. And instead we see things in the complete opposite way to emptiness. So the understanding of emptiness is the most important thing. That's the thing that will really free us from all of our confusion and all of our suffering and all of our problems, and enable our mind to kind of reach the state of enlightenment, which we have the potential to attain. So all the analytical meditations are actually kind of geared to leading us to that point of gaining wisdom. That makes sense?
Thank you.
Anyone else? You can also just ask about other things about Buddhism, or about what we're doing here, how we do things, and so on.
I have a good question. So on the days where I don't have as much time to meditate, what would be like the most beneficial thing to like set my mind in a good direction, like if, with limited time though?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good question. I mean, most of my teachers really emphasize the importance of compassion, love, and what we call bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is a Sanskrit word that could be translated as the mind of enlightenment, but I don't know if that means so much. But it's basically this state of mind of caring for others and wanting to help others, and understanding that the best way to help others is by developing our potential, our spiritual potential, and aiming for enlightenment, Buddhahood. Because if we reach enlightenment, we'll be able to help others in the best way. But that doesn't mean we don't do anything to help others now. So we also look for ways in which we can help others every day, you know, in our interactions with others and so on. So it's, yeah, basically this attitude of caring about others and wanting to help others and looking for ways in which we can help others and directing our energies in that way. So, yeah, especially since most of us are interacting with others in our life. We have family and neighbors and people we work with, clients, patients, and so on. So if we can bring these positive qualities into our interactions with others, it's not easy, of course, but it's often very challenging to be kind and patient and not get angry and impatient and so on. But it's possible, and we can learn to have more of those positive qualities, and that's so good for ourselves. It's very satisfying for ourselves as well as for others. Well, I was thinking to do another meditation. So another kind of practice that's used a lot in Tibetan Buddhism is visualization, and you'll probably be doing some of that while you're here. We visualize Buddha, for example, image of the Buddha, and sometimes other holy beings. And in some of the analytical meditations as well, we use visualization. For example, when you're trying to cultivate love and compassion, it's very helpful to think of actual people or beings towards whom you are generating those feelings of love and compassion. Yeah, so Tibetans do a lot of visualization. Many of us Westerners find it difficult. I certainly used to find it difficult. I'm better at it now, but anyway, yeah, there's this meditation that I kind of invented in a way to help people get used to doing visualization, start to experiment with it. But it's also a really nice meditation for starting to get in touch with our Buddha nature, our potential for more kindness and love and wisdom and so on. And yeah, the potential that our mind has. So I thought we could do that meditation together. You're willing? If any of you are feeling cramped, you want to stand up and stretch your legs before we start. So we'll start with another couple of minutes of the meditation on the breathing to hopefully get our minds more calm, more settled. And then I'll guide you in the visualization of this meditation, which I call body of light meditation. So once again, get your body into a comfortable position. Try to have your back straight, but let your shoulders relax. Have your hands resting in your lap, arms not pressed against your sides, but leaving some space, some openness. Your legs in a position that's comfortable for you, that you don't have to move too much during the meditation. Let your mouth and jaw relax. Put the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth behind your upper teeth. Don't press it there, but just let it rest there lightly. And you can close your eyes if you prefer, or leave them open a little so there's light coming in that can help you be more awake, alert. So one way we can get ourselves more relaxed at the start of a meditation is to take 3 deep breaths. Breathe in slowly, as much as you can before it becomes uncomfortable. And then let your breath go out slowly. You can let it go out through your mouth if you wish, but do it slowly. Let the exhale slowly through your mouth. And as you exhale, imagine if there's any tension inside in your body or in your mind, that it goes out with the breath and disappears in space. So do that 3 times for 3 breaths. Breathing in slowly, deeply, pausing for a moment, and then exhale slowly. Let go of all tension in your body and mind. And then just go back to normal breathing. Just allow your body to breathe in a natural way. And try to keep your mind, your awareness, attentive to your breathing, aware of your breathing, the full inhalation and exhalation of each breath, as if your mind is riding on the breath. Now let's begin the visualization. So visualization means thinking in pictures, having mental pictures, mental images. Our mind does that anyway. We can easily picture places we're familiar with, like our bedroom, a person we care about. But here we're deliberately constructing a mental picture. And the picture I'd like you to visualize is that of a ball of light, a sphere of light above your head, in the space above your head, not sitting on top of your head, but a few inches above the top of your head. And it's pure light. It's not like a light bulb that's hard, solid, but more like a rainbow. When we see a rainbow in the sky, it appears very bright, but it's not something solid that we could touch. It's just pure light. So imagine this ball of light above your head. You can make it any size you want, big or small. You can visualize it any color you like. It's something beautiful, inviting. And think that this ball of light represents all positive qualities. So those can be things like kindness, compassion, love, caring for others, helping others, being generous and patient, wisdom, intelligence, courage. So you can add your own qualities, the things that you admire when you see them in other people and that would like to have more of in yourself. So think of those qualities and think that this ball of light above your head is those qualities in the form of light. And imagine it very beautiful, very radiant, very pleasant to look at or to think about. Then invite this ball of light to come into you, become part of you. Imagine that it melts, becomes like liquid light, and it flows down into the top of your head and flows down through your body, coming to your heart, center of your chest. And from there it expands and flows to every part of your body, all the way down to your toes, filling your legs, your torso, flowing through your arms down to your fingertips, filling you completely right up to the top of your head, filling every part of you, every part of your body, even down to the tiny parts like the cells, molecules, atoms that make up your body. So imagine every part of you gets filled up with this beautiful light. And your mind gets filled up with all the qualities that the light represents. All those good qualities that you thought about and wish to have more of in yourself. Imagine you are filled with those qualities. And any opposing qualities, opposite qualities that you may have, like anger, selfishness, and so on, imagine them disappearing, dissolving, disappearing, becoming non-existent. And in their place are only these beautiful, positive qualities. So imagine your entire body filled with light, becoming calm and clear like crystal. And imagine your mind becoming filled with these positive qualities, positive energy. Feel that this is getting a taste of your real nature, your true nature, who you really are. And feel confident that if you familiarize yourself with these positive qualities, they will become more and more a natural part of you, more and more real in yourself, in your life, in your way of being. And let's finish this meditation and also our session together by mentally sharing the positive energy we've experienced with others. By the good that we have done here tonight, may all other people and all other beings find greater peace and happiness and be free of their suffering and confusion. And may the whole world, everyone, everywhere, be filled with only pure and positive energy. May we all quickly reach enlightenment, the fulfillment of our highest potential. Okay, thank you.